You're now tuning in to Fatima Bey, the MindShifter. Get ready to shift your thinking and turn it into success.
Hello, and thank you for listening. Today's message is entitled, As We Rise. Now, think about famous people for a second. Think about someone famous that you know. All right? Now, think about everything that you know about that famous person or people. If you're thinking about more than one, and that's fine. Think about everything you know about them. Good or bad, because I'm sure there's both. Now, have you ever met that person or people? Do you believe everything you've heard about that person or people? You see, no one gets lied on more than someone famous. I mean, whether they're a politician, a famous actor, a singer, an activist of some sort. Just there's so many different levels. And famous person on TV, who's a news anchor. There's so many different positions that I could talk about. Now, famous in business. What most people don't realize is that at the very least, and this is actually a very conservative number, at least 50% of what you hear about someone famous is a load of crap. Totally false, completely made up, or an exaggerated truth. By the way, sidebar, an exaggerated truth equals a whole lie. Just so you know. For example, if I give you a bottle of water, it's 75% water, but it's 25% cyanide. You're going to drink it? Of course not. It's still poison. Even if it's 10% cyanide, it's still poisonous, right? Same thing applies to lies. When you take a truth and you exaggerate it, it's a lie. So tell the whole truth or shut up. Now, famous people get lied on a lot, and we don't even realize it, and we just see what they report in whatever form of media you're listening to, watching, or reading. And we hear the crap about them. We're like, I can't believe they did this and that. And sometimes it's totally made up things, like people that are dating that barely even had a conversation. And then, the real famous people that they're talking about that they claim are doing whatever, they just laugh like, where did they make that up from? And then some of y'all are just silly enough to believe it. If you believe everything you hear about a famous person, I really question your intelligence. It's like, seriously. Because most of it's so silly. And sometimes sometimes some things are true, but a lot of it's not, because they are targets. When you become famous or well known, or you rise to a certain level of visibility, I would say, regardless of what position that is, you become a target for many. Now, I'm going to use 3 examples: Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs, and Mariah Carey. All 3 very, very, very successful in their fields. Very different field, 3 completely different fields, very famous and very successful. And I am happy that they have become very successful in their fields. I really am. Do I know any of them personally? Nope. And I don't have to understand this principle. I understand some things about them because I understand this principle. But they are, again, very successful examples. All 3 of them have had absolute ridiculous lies told about them. I mean, totally made up stuff that you just could swear somebody pooped it out and said, hey, here's the news. All 3 of them have had a lot of garbage made up about them. Yet they still rose anyway. And no one really can kind of take the place that they've held in this world. So, this is what happens as we rise. Now, I'm going to read to you a quote that I put on Facebook. And by the way, if you I don't usually plug my Facebook page, but you're welcome to follow it. It's just my name. I do have 3 accounts, Fatima Bey, and then Fatima Bey 2, and Fatima Bey 3. You can friend any 3 of them. I'll probably accept you. Because I use Facebook for networking, so I'm fine with it. So if you want to see more of my material, believe it or not, the best material that I have out there is actually on my Facebook page, because things come to me and I just post them. And sometimes I don't even remember until I look at it. I'm like, I wrote that? Because they come to me and they flow through me, and so I put it out there. And sometimes I just see things that people need to hear, and I put it out there. And sometimes I don't know who I'm talking to, and that's okay. Now, the quote says, as you become your real self, you will rise. As you rise, some will not appreciate you rising above them. Don't be moved by them. They haven't yet discovered what you have. Now, I'm going to explain what that means. Now, one of the reasons why I like to say people throw stones at you, but people attack you, and most of the time it's verbally, or they have an attitude towards you, or they do things to try to stop you from succeeding, or they secretly hope that you fail. Well, all of those are more often than not coming from the same place, and that place is jealousy. Now, we use the term haters today a lot. But understand, when people use the word haters, it's not 100% jealousy, but most of the time that's what it is. Okay. And most of the time people throwing stones at you, it is jealousy. But again, it's not 100% jealous all the time. That's what it is, but that's mostly what it is. So because I'm talking about the word jealous, I actually think it's very important that I read to you the definition of the word jealous, because that's going to matter here. So jealous means a feeling or showing envy of someone for their achievements or advantages. Again, a feeling or showing envy of someone for their achievements or advantages. And this happens as we rise and we grow into position. So this happens when you get a promotion at work. You will have coworkers that have an attitude with you now and are very jealous because you got a promotion and they didn't. They felt like they were worth it and you weren't. Whatever that reason is in their head, they're jealous. They're envious that you got something that they didn't. Now, what I want to do today is I want to dive a little bit deeper than just saying that someone's jealous. I want to dive into why. And I think it's important, if you are a rising person, it's important for you to understand this. And if you are a jealous person, you need to understand why. Now, very often when people are jealous, they actually don't realize that that's what it is. They just know that they just can't stand you and they want to say something negative about you or what you're doing. And this is why, as a rising person, if you are rising right now, as a rising person, you can't be moved by them, because they're never, ever, ever, ever going to be a short supply of these people who don't yet realize who they are, which is why they get angry and upset about who you are when you begin to realize who you are. Because when you realize who you are, you will grow. You will move up to another level, with or without a title. Because you don't always have to have a title for this to apply. Sometimes it's not your title, but it's your influence. Because some of the greatest influencers I've noticed in life do not always have a title. It's important to know that. Just because someone has a title doesn't mean that they have influence. Influence comes from us choosing to respect you. Now, I said that, but that applies in most situations. It doesn't always apply in work situations. So I wanted to clarify that. What I just said does not always apply in work situations. That dynamic can be a little bit different depending on your details. Now, One of the reasons why people get jealous is because they are making you a target. Just like I started off talking about famous people, they're making you a target because you are rising and they're not. Now, most of the time, if you're one of those people who are doing that, it's not because you can't rise. It's because you haven't risen yet. Because you don't know who you are. If you know who you are, then you have a target and you begin to climb for it so you can reach it. When you don't know who you are, you're just sitting around drinking and smoking and you ain't trying to do nothing because you don't have a target yet. You have nothing to go for. And so as people begin to get out of your just sitting around drinking and smoking and they want to do something better, that means they must leave your presence while you're drinking and sitting there drinking and smoking and doing nothing. Now, sidebar, I'm not insulting those who drink and smoke. I'm just using that as an example to give you a visual. Okay? Because I think it's an easy visual for all of us to relate to, and that's all. So, you're just sitting there drinking and smoking, not doing anything, not trying to go anywhere, and they have a destination, so they get up and they begin to go. Well, you don't like that because they're leaving you. And when they leave you, you now are left there to question where you are. You are now left there to just be by yourself, or at least not be with them anymore. So as they get up and they begin to move and they begin to actually go somewhere, you're sitting there going nowhere. So you're upset that they left your presence. So you begin to insult them. Oh, you've always been this. You've always been that. You can't go anywhere. You need to stay back here with us. Now, you may not say it in those exact words. You will use their past and bring it up. Don't do that. Now, for those of you who are the ones who are leading, the ones who are rising, and the ones who are growing, I want to stop for a second and talk to those who are growing, because this principle happens to those who are growing. When you are growing, that will upset people around you because now you're moving, you're causing waves in the water, and they don't like that because people who are not interested in growing and people who are interested in growing will always clash. Why? Because people who are not interested in growing are interested in comfort, not growth. People who are interested in growth will put comfort to the side in order to grow. Very different mentalities. One is going somewhere, one is not. So they will throw stones at you. One of the other reasons people pick at you as you're growing is they want attention that you're getting. You're getting attention because you're growing. Whether that attention is just from your small circle or it's in front of the news media. Attention is attention. The only difference is numbers. I really want you to think about it that way. The principles of life don't change with money and fame. Just the numbers do. Yes, there are some other things that go with that. But I'm talking about the principles, not the details. The principles don't change because you're rich and famous or not rich and famous. They are the same for both. The details are different for both. But I hope you understand what I mean when I say that. Change and growth make people around you uncomfortable. So they will throw stones at you. They will secretly want you to fail. Simply because they're not leading the horse. Simply because it's not their project that you're being successful on. And for those of you who I'm talking to who are these people that are growing, you're the innovators. You're the leaders of tomorrow. You are growing where you are. Don't be moved by those who are throwing stones. They don't yet know who they are. And that's why they're attacking you. Because when you know who you are, you don't have time to attack somebody else or sit around talking about somebody else. You've got stuff to do and accomplish. They don't. Don't be moved by them. Recognize that, push them to the side, and move on. You've been listening to Fatima Bey, the MindShifter. And if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, please email me at radio@fatimabey.com. That's radio at Fatimabey.com. And again, thank you for listening.
Tune in next week for another segment of Fatima Bey, the MindShifter. For more of her teachings, subscribe to her YouTube channel at Fatima Bey, the MindShifter.